advertising friendly yet, but people have sort of hacked iframes to allow them to include things like Google AdSense into their pages. So I think that one of the things that you really want to get comfortable with during the course of this quarter, if you're going to bring together a bunch of different APIs, is building an app that really is well organized around iframes. And another thing that comes up once you start dealing with iframes is basically how to get information back and forth between them. And older browsers don't really support that with any kind of official API, but the newer ones do. And even Internet Explorer, I think version 8 does. So this is something that's coming into the HTML5 standard, and I definitely recommend learning how to use that in combination with XML or JSON. Cool. So I didn't really want to make this class too long because the assignment was due today, and I wanted to make sure that I had your attention for as much of the class as possible. And I thought that it would be really fun to kind of end with a little bit of discussion. I don't know if there are any questions that you guys have. Sure.
So sometimes when you use a bunch of external APIs, and those services maybe go under after a period of time.
You mean like the company goes bankrupt or something?
So how do you have to deal with that? Like, does an open source community pop up and take over that API, or do you have to build in?
That's a really good question. I haven't had to deal with that situation personally. I know that in the area of, say, maps, there are services that allow you to actually use Google Maps and Microsoft's Maps kind of interchangeably. So if you can find multiple sources for the type of data that you're processing, that's one out. That's one of the things that'll solve that problem for you. I think that, in business as a general rule, there's always a risk when you're relying a lot on an outside source, and I think the best thing you can do ultimately is form close relationships with your most vital partners, and perhaps get licenses. You might be able to get like an unrestricted license when a company goes bankrupt for a certain data set. Or I don't think there's a standard for that, no. And it tends to really happen, through the development of your business relationships with the other companies. As a matter of fact, I got an email request for some information on IMEME intellectual property yesterday and whether it was available for sale. And to be honest, I don't know because it's been purchased by MySpace, so MySpace owns it now. Anyway, so that's an example of data that's gone forever, sadly. Basically, one of the things that I wanted to do in the early part of this course was to do a lot of the high-level stuff and try and get it out of the way, but also create a context for everything that we do in this second part of the course. So in the coming weeks, we're going to definitely dig in a lot deeper into software building and how we actually use all of this stuff. So I'm really happy that you guys have made it through the first couple weeks where we're not really talking about code all that much. But I hope that what that did for you is it creates a context, through which a lot of your coding decisions can be made a lot more easily. Feel free to ask me at any time, either offline or at the end of class, about any further stuff relating to, I think, a lot of the high level concepts that really make a difference in how you end up coding your sites. And two other topics that I brought up thought would be worth bringing up would be to sort of discuss anonymity on the web and how that's changing, and also to take a look at how mashups are evolving. So I don't know if they're...
Do you think there will be like a pushback towards like more anonymity with things like Google in China, kind of that whole situation, and as there's more risk out there?
But yeah, I think that actually we're moving sort of more and more into an age where anonymity is disappearing, and I think that at a certain level, in the past few hundred years or so, there's been kind of an artificial anonymity that's sprung up, because in the days when most people lived in small villages or farms and things like that, no one was really anonymous. If you did something, the whole neighborhood knew, and that was expected. And then as cities grew, the notion of anonymity really came into play. And I think that, and the expectation of anonymity is something that's actually even more recent than that. So maybe what the web is doing is it's taking us back to kind of a global village model. But I think it's interesting to note that we're losing anonymity